Thank you. Was funny.
Thank you.
That was great. That was great, Brian.
Thank you.
I'm so glad I have that on tape. Guys, 4 wives. Married, not dead. Yeah, so this week, I think it was Thursday, that I was on Twitter. It was late at night, like it was like 1 a.m, and I saw this video and I clicked on it because it was from someone local here in Tennessee. So I knew it wasn't like a spam tweet or anything like that. And I clicked on it, and it's this kid named Keaton Jones. And he was like crying. He's got like this almost like a cleft nose. Like his nose is like pushed into his face a little bit. So he kind of looks a little awkward. But he's in tears. He's crying. He's heartbreaking, talking about like how he's getting bullied at school. People are calling him ugly. People are saying his nose is messed up. And he's just like, at the same time of like completely crying, he's like being encouraging to other kids that are getting bullied in America, saying, hey, if somebody's bullying you, just don't even listen to them. Don't let it get to you. And it was just like, whoa. And I was like kind of feeling a certain way about it. Like I was like, oh, damn, I'm all emotional right now. And I liked it. I think I liked it and maybe even retweeted. Well, a couple of days go by, and it's gone viral nationally. Like Justin Bieber has chimed in. Mark Ruffalo has chimed in. All these stars are chiming in. Mark Ruffalo invited this kid to the premiere of his movie.
The Avengers, not just the movie.
Wow.
A movie, the movie.
Yeah, that's important to note there. Not the invisible Mark Ruffalo movie, but the one where he's the Hulk.
Yeah.
His
mother started a GoFundMe page, and they've earned $58,000 so far. So over the week,
what was the funding for?
I don't know. Over the weekend, it came out that the mom and dad are apparently have written racial things online. They have several pictures of themselves like posing in front of the Confederate flag, and little Keaton Jones was calling people at school. So
sure. I don't know. Maybe I should be last in this one. So I saw the pictures, and I saw the Butthurt Americans tweet, or whatever it was there, which could be calculated as insensitive. But automatically, even if she is a racist, neither one of those things paint her definitively that way. And what the fuck's that got to do with a kid? And also, I don't know why there's, automatically one wouldn't see that video of him and the way you described it was pretty good. And say this is also a kid who marginalizes and doesn't like colored folks. But even if he did have that language, it would be taught and not naturally his, because that's obviously not the soul of this child. So I don't know. Just up front, we can get into it. But I think anybody who pulls back from this kid is an ignorant prick.
Yeah, I think that's some of the thoughts that I've had too. Is what is the connection between the message, which is bullying isn't cool, and the connection between his parents or some of the things that he said? My guess is a little bit different than what I've read out there in the Twitterverse, which is maybe what happened was this sort of Michael Richards thing where, if you don't remember, he was getting heckled by some black audience members and kind of lost it and snapped and called him the N-word a bunch of times.
Did he? I just thought he said something about monkeys and swinging from a tree.
No. He went full on.
Well,
he went full.
See, that's as a white guy, that's more offensive than the N-word. But I get it. Okay.
Yeah, and he might have said both.
Calling somebody a monkey and saying you'd be swinging from a tree by your neck is, for me, that should be more offensive than the N-word.
No, but that's not a comparison.
Things.
Right. It's
Right.
not
I was going to say that. It's not a comparison.
They're all offensive, man. There's all shit you shouldn't say, and it ruined his career.
No. Two of those are much more offensive.
I don't know, man. They're all bad because the offense is subjective. So to me, there's here's that reaction, and then so we're left to question. Okay, well, where did that come from, Michael Richards? Were you saying something as a comedian that you knew would hurt those guys in a personal way, so they'd stop heckling you, or is that who you really are inside, right? And to this kid, he was probably getting bullied first, and then his best retaliation was the N-word because he knew it'd be really offensive. But
That's interesting that you said probably, as opposed to like, you don't think he went to school in a Confederate flag shirt and was saying some things, maybe not using the N-word, but maybe using the N-word and someone overheard it, and maybe there were more of them than him in a certain situation, and he took that as bullying, but that was their reaction to whatever maybe he was wearing or he was saying.
Why do we assume any of that's true?
Well, that's my point.
Has everybody here seen the video?
Well, that's my point. Is that's what we're doing, right? It's like, why assume one versus the other?
Right. So either could be true, but the reason I make my assumption is simply for the reason of in the video, he said exactly what the guys were bullying him about, or maybe the girls or both. He mentioned what they were doing. And I guess I took it a little bit anecdotal because from my experience, when someone is called the N-word to their face, it's more of a physical, visceral response than that's why your nose is flat, or that's why you ugly. Like that that it's more of a, okay, we're gonna knock your ass out. So
yeah, I don't believe it. I don't believe it at all. And I don't believe, look, I mean, I knew those kids that would pick on others for how they looked or call or say negative things. And I didn't grow up with black people, but I know it seems impossible to believe that, but being mean is fucking universal, and it doesn't take a different skin color to really hurt somebody or to really be hurt. But these kids don't go into their mama's car and cry. They don't. If you're a bully that picks on other people for the way that they look, when somebody comes back at you for the way you look, you either beat their ass, or do your best to bring them down again in some way. It's not the same. Those two psychological characteristics don't exist together.
Right, and that was my point about, potentially, again, there's a lot of assumptions here, but that he wasn't bullying. It was behavior that he thought was normal because it was being taught by his family, that was actually offensive to others. So he felt that he was being bullied for what he was saying, for his clothing. But that was the reaction of the other people who, again, weren't being bullied, but were offended by that. And as children,
any assumption is safe at this point because we're just assuming. Right. But what I'm saying, but we're saying we can open up assumption and speculation based on somebody's bullshit report of he did this because he's a racist. He's being bullied because he's a racist. We have no proof of this. Like. So, I mean, where is that part coming from? Well, I know it's being reported, but other than the pictures and saying, she definitely hates black people, which, no.
Yeah,
that's not necessarily true.
And to your point about him being a child, I think that's also a difficult part. Like, it's an odd question, but I'm going to ask it. At what point, at what age can you actually be labeled a racist? And the reason, why I asked that question is like, he's being trained in a certain way. Like he doesn't even know what he's saying potentially. Is he racist or is he just spouting out the things that he's heard his parents say? He thinks it's normal. He may not even know it as hate talk. He may just know it as normal. It's just what it is. Right. So yeah, to your point, Jay, I think that's right. Like people can't just say, oh, this kid was a racist. I mean, I don't know that the kid's racist, but his parents obviously have some tendencies or some things that or have shown some behaviors that would be considered socially unacceptable in mixed company.
Well, it's like the kids I had at the fair several months ago that I told you about. They were walking around with the Confederate flag stickers on their T-shirt at the fair.
Right.
They had no clue. Their parents slapped those stickers on their shirts, and they got no clue. Before you jump in, Jed, let me ask Brian. What do you have to say on this? What's your take?
I think we're making a lot of assumptions here. I think we're putting a lot of stock in. All I can do is put myself in. When I watched that, and it took me back to my 8-9-year-old self, because I was bullied repeatedly every day. Sent home crying, all those kind of things because of height. Social, economic, challenges, didn't have any money. And, I understand, when I saw that, my heart poured out to the child, because, that last line he said, where he was like, he's trying to give comfort to other kids and saying, hey, it's going to get better. It's going to get better. Because basically that's what I'm told. I mean, I completely understood 100% what he was going through. And, what I will say is, all I can do is speak on people's actions, their current actions, right? The current actions was this boy today met with the quarterback of the Volunteers, the University of Tennessee, who's been in the news a lot, right?
Right. And just for clarity's sake, Brian, Keaton Jones and his family are from Knoxville.
Yeah, they're from Knoxville, and he met with is it Garantano? Is that his name? Is it?
I think that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, and who's African American, and took pictures with him and had a really nice smile on his face. Didn't look like he was uncomfortable or didn't feel like he should be standing next to a black person. Looked pretty normal to me. I think he's been, we've mentioned. I think that you mentioned Mark Ruffalo and Justin Bieber, two white people.
Just to name two. I mean, there's so many.
Two. Well, the first person to really kind of reach out were the Tennessee Titans and the players of the UT Vols. And Delaney Walker, for one, African American, plays Tennessee Titans tight end, has invited him and his family to come to a game and meet with the team and all that. And so I don't know. I mean, I can't say that the boy's actions are really pointing that he's a racist, and also I don't think that you can call a child racist. Kind of to Nick's point,
right? Yeah.
I mean, my grandfather was the most influential person in my life, and he was extremely racist. But just because he was doesn't mean that I was.
Right. You grew up and had your own choices. So Jason.
And if you look at, before I'm not done. And if you look at the kid, to be honest, if you look at the kid and his demeanor, the way he kind of carries himself, the way he talks, the way he looks, to say that, maybe he was being bullied because he may have used the N-word. Come on. We've all been that age. We've all been around kids that age, and we know what happens to kids that are different. As a kid that was different, I can tell you, they get made fun of, every day. And because and I can tell you that child, based out of the hurt that he had, this isn't the first time. This isn't the last time. He's going to be made fun of for the rest of his life until he gets a little older. He starts to mature or he, I went to private school. My grandfather paid for it. I went to private school, kindergarten through 8th grade. And I stopped going to private school and switched to public school because I was bullied every day from kindergarten till 8th grade. That's why I switched. And that's why I don't have any connections with any of the people that I went to grade school with. Because of that. Because of bullying. So, it's I completely understand where the kid's coming from. And I think it's a little bit, the internet and people always like to, they always like to find the negative. And I think in this case, I think it's a little unfair.
So so you were the Painted Bird, which is a great book, by the way, by Jerzy Kosinski that I consider essential reading.
I got one. I got a question
that talks about that concept as well. Go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, just kind of a general question. So, outside of the individual kid and, what he did or didn't do, what do you guys think about this? It's not necessarily sensationalizing, but is it okay that this kid becomes a celebrity? In that, like, why is he invited to all these things? Why isn't it that these celebrities are saying, let's hear from other kids, almost like this whole Me Too thing, right? It's like, why is this kid getting to go to all this stuff? Because he had a YouTube video? Right. This girl, what's her name? Ashanti Davis, 10 years old, killed herself from the bullying video that was out there. So there's lots of kids going through this stuff who could benefit from maybe a good conversation from their mentor. Or not even a mentor, but someone that they look up to or whatever it is. But this is something that I feel like happens a lot.
They're not.
No, what I'm saying is that why this kid? Why so many of these people inviting him to all these things?
Here's what I'm saying.
Should the mother profit? I mean, should she be?
Well, I don't understand the GoFundMe, but look, I don't want to.
There's a lot of layers to this. That's all.
Yeah, but I think we should separate the layers and saying, I don't know what the mother's doing and I don't know how the mother feels, but I don't really care. It doesn't diminish anything the kid's going through.
So how would you handle your kid being bullied, Jason, if you found out he was also using racial slurs?
I mean, that's a hard question to ask because it's not going to be a real thing. But I don't like if your kid's using racial slurs. And it's not, if he's, or she is not advanced in teenage years, well, then it's your fault. But again, I don't even, I'm uncomfortable sticking to, the kid was using racial slurs. And I'm uncomfortable, mentioning that the little girl that Nick just did in the same thing. His mother posted an emotional video. That's why it caught on. I mean, I don't know if Mark Ruffalo talks to bullied children on a regular basis, like more in a group thing. But this one was, made kind of public, so he latched onto. I don't why is everybody so goddamn condemnable? That's what I want.
No, this isn't about condemnation, and that's my point.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not. What I'm asking is about the one child. Because this is something that I'm seeing across the board. With these featured videos or featured things that you see on Twitter, the viral things, right? There's a big focus on this viral kid. So I'm just asking the general question, is it okay for the focus to remain on the one that went viral as opposed to it being spread out?
I don't think it will.
And being focused on.
I don't remember any of the kids that had their viral bullying, because this is not the first. Maybe it's kind of the biggest on this level with the star recognition and whatnot. But many of the things and many of the kids that were bullied, I don't feel that they stayed in the spotlight or that they're celebrity or famous because of it.
Well, that's part of the point. Okay, you don't remember that kid; he goes away. But what I'm saying is that the difference is now, right? There has been a movement, this Me Too movement, where it's no longer about the one person who said so and so touched me. It's about the whole problem, right? So now there's a conversation about the problem, as opposed to what we've been doing for the past 20 minutes and talking about the kid. So when they keep inviting the kid onto different things and he keeps getting, national, television, televised recordings, whatever he's doing, it's about the kid and the conversation is about the kid. And that's where I'm seeing not necessarily an issue with the fact that he's having these opportunities. I'm not going to decry him of that. And I'm not going to say that these celebrities shouldn't feel something towards him because that's the one video that they saw. But again, my issue is more societal in saying that when we focus on the one thing that went viral, the conversation becomes about the one thing, as opposed to potentially the broader issue that we're seeing here, that yes, this kid was bullied, and yes, he had a heartfelt thing, and yes, he said some great stuff out there, but there's actually some kids doing some great stuff on YouTube and other places who haven't been bullied, who have said some great stuff. There's also these kids who are dying because of this stuff. So like, let's have the global conversation, and maybe that's open about bullying.
I think you're right.
That's my point.
They need that. The
I think we're at a fever pitch moment anyway on that particular subject, right? I mean, you've had, Demi Lovato came out, I guess, a month ago, talked about her being bullied and came out about that. And like, we have a lot of momentum going in that way, going into that subject. And all of a sudden you have this pristine victim, raw emotion pouring in a perfectly sizable, bite for the American public, which is right at a minute, right? I mean, they don't want to watch anything more than that.
I'm uncomfortable with the fact that she's videoing this honest moment, Brian. I really am.
Yeah. What the fuck did you bring your cell phone out for when your son was crying?
Pouring his heart out to you and you're videoing him.
Yeah. So that's weird.
And you opened to GoFundMe account too,
let's
which
talk about that
easy.
separately. Right, let's talk about it separately. But like, that is weird. And I know there's a lot of comments about that. I'm starting to wonder though, is that weird in today's, Snapchat society?
No, it's not.
Probably not.
Right. So that's the key, right? Right. So it's weird for us, but now it's like, no, that's just kind of that's part of what people do.
To be fair, this might not have been the first time, and I don't want to paint her with such a nice and good mother brush, but maybe that was not the first time he got in the car crying, and so she said, you know what, I'm going to do something about this time.
Yeah. When I started watching it, I thought she was filming it so she could have it to give to the teachers and principals at the school.
Right.
But by the end of it, I realized that could not have been the purpose.
Which would have been a legitimate
from the kids.
reason.
So I'm not going to get into what a mother's motives. Okay, because I think you're taking away from any good that can come away from this. And I think that's what ultimately the sentiment is kind of turning to. And I think that's disgusting. I mean, the kid was obviously.
That's what we do, don't we? We always do that.
I know.
We try to take it away.
That's exactly. And I really feel like, the child was trying to give a message of encouragement to others by the end of it. Regardless of how it started, it may have been, tell me what you did so that I can have this on tape so I understand what happened. But the child turned it to be a positive message against bullying.
Mm-hmm. I love what Delaney Walker and the UT quarterback did, because I think that my most honest take on this is, even if the kid said some racial things, what an opportunity as a minority, as a black person, man or female, whatever, to step up and maybe show him a different image of compassion than his parents have provided him up to this point. So kudos to those black athletes and black stars that are looking past his parents and saying, you know what? Let me show you what a real human being does, regardless of race.
And I think that is because that should have been applied the whole time. Like what I'm having trouble with here.
Did I miss something where he said, "Hey, only white people listen to this message about bullying"?
No.
He was talking to everybody.
I think I missed that.
No. You have to go back to what
I got the extended cut.
No. You got to go back to what Chris said, because back to what Chris said, because that one little piece that he said was on point, which is he looked past his parents. Right, because that's the big discussion that's going on right now, and that was the influence that potentially got this kid to use the words that he used. So he's, again, this athlete is saying, no, as a child, maybe I can show you something. You're not racist. You know, you're a child.
Exactly.
You haven't gotten there yet. So I'm going to show you something that can potentially put you on a different path. I'm going to look past your parents, look past what influence they might be giving you, and offer you this, extend my hand to you. So I think that's the key point.
Right. That's exactly it, because the kid using the words is not acceptable. It's unacceptable. Okay,
I 100% agree that it's unacceptable.
The four of
that
us,
is not the first time he has been bullied.
But I think that
that's right.
Him being bullied is unacceptable, but two wrongs don't make a right. And I think the four of us can agree that kids fundamentally maybe can't be racist, right? They're just products of their nurture, right?
I just don't.
I'm
really upset here that it's being discounted.
I love this idea of looking past the nurture and saying, "Let me show you something else." And then maybe you won't use those words anymore.
I'm going to be a contrarian. I don't think it's I don't think everybody's so goddamn noble for looking past it. Like, I don't understand anymore how and you know what? Maybe you have to be truly bullied to understand this part. But I don't know. You know what's not the same? Somebody who is taught and uses pejorative comments when speaking about a group as to being individually attacked and beaten down are not in the same ballpark. I don't give a shit. It's not.
No, but when you use that word, Nick or Jason, you're saying it to one person. You're not saying it to a group.
Oh, bullshit. No,
you're saying
bullshit.
a. I mean, every time.
No, that is not what that means.
I will take it. I will tell you as someone who is perceived as black by others, that every time I've been called the N-word, it was directly for me. It was for me and me only.
Well, yeah, but
I will also tell you that I've been bullied and I've been the bullier. And I will tell you that children are Lord of Flies motherfuckers.
I've never been the bullier, but
right. And that's unfortunate, I guess. I don't know. Maybe that's great. But I can tell you that it's Lord of Flies. Kids are very Lord of Flies. So the bigger kid bullies you and you bully the kid below you. And that happens sometimes, even when you don't know you're bullying them. Right? Because kids understand hierarchy and rank and file. And that's why I've been the bullier to kids that I thought I could bully. And then I've been bullied by kids I knew I couldn't bully. And they knew they could lean on me. And so I've seen it on both sides.
We may be taking the bully thing a little lightly here. I was going with more of a repetitive, regular thing. That's generally what goes in instead of just being mean and putting somebody down for the day. But
I mean, I've been bullied consistently. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I've bullied consistently and been bullied consistently.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think that's great that you're.
And I've been called the N-word, and I know what that's like too.
Okay. Well, look, I mean, I'm saying sometimes the N-word is said, and it's not said individually.
Okay, but why are we?
I'm saying racism exists. Like, somebody can be broadly racist and not individually.
Like, I don't understand. Like, one's not better than the other.
Because this is make believe.
One's not better than the other. They're both bad.
No, one is better than the other.
Which one is better?
One falls in a natural paradigm and the other one doesn't.
What falls in a natural paradigm?
A creature's natural reaction to or association for survival mechanism for recognizing those that are like him and those that are not.
No, that's bullshit. That's a bunch of bullshit. That's the most ridiculous shit I've ever heard.
I don't even know where to go with that one, man.
I don't. I'm saying
he could have used a million different words.
Right.
Yeah, but he was taught one of them.
Okay, and that's our point.
So he was taught one of them. He's taught.
They're both bad. Right, just like the kid was taught to bully, but probably by his shitty parents.
I don't know. Oh, I'm sorry. So you don't believe you can be broadly racist without being individually racist?
I don't think the kid is racist.
Right.
I'm not asking you about the kid.
I think the kid chose
this is a bigger conversation.
I think the kid chose a poor
That's why we keep
set
talking
of words to defend himself potentially, or what Nick said, since it is an assumption, he went to school in a Confederate flag T-shirt and was loosely using racial slurs like maybe he heard at home. But we can't go off that because those are just assumptions. But what we can say is, okay, We see the pictures of the parents. We know the parents have made 60 grand. We know they set up an account. There's no national, to Nick's point, there's no national bullying GoFundMe, which there should be, since there should be a larger discussion about it. It sounds like everybody on this call has been bullied before. So we kind of know what this is, and we empathize. I told you at the beginning, at the top, I looked at the video, I liked it, I retweeted it, and I almost cried because I could relate to the kid. I could relate to his frustration of not being able to escape these kids. That's what it feels like. It feels like you're trapped. You can't escape them because if you can't stand up to them, then you're weak. And it just gets worse and worse and worse for you. And that's why bullying is so terrible. But at the same time, we can't ignore the other part of it, which is, should he be a celebrity? Should his parents get this much money? Why are the celebrities not giving, this kind of financial feedback for all bullying? There are different layers. That's all.
There shouldn't be. I don't know why they're making 60 grand. I don't know. I don't know why her son getting picked on gets her 60 grand. And I don't. And I do agree that there should be. But look, this is what people need. This is what this level of primate really needs, is the example and the individuals to use as their kind of focus of, we need to make a change. Like, I get it that, no, he's not the only one. But look, if he and the, 50 others that get marked out of the thousands and thousands of people, and they get some advantage in life because of that, but it does get people thinking about society, and bullying as a whole. That's what it takes. Right. The human creature needs that. But look, we're talking about this because it is race involved, and I know that last comment got laughed off, but it's absolutely not. It absolutely works this way, and
look, it's a touchy subject.
I mean, tribalism is a real thing. I mean, you can say it's not. You can laugh at me for that, but it's true.
This kid is going to the Avengers premiere. That's awesome. Like, I love that. Like, yes, you got bullied. Now look at you. You're the hero. Awesome. And every one of us kids that got bullied can say that's a small win for us because we would have wanted that. But on the other hand, there are adults who potentially had an agenda or who potentially are profiting, who probably won't share a dime with their kid, maybe. I mean, we don't even know.
Well, that's fine. I just don't want him to be painted as a racist. Right. That's what.
And I don't think the kid is a racist, but I look at it and it gets a little bit. Like, I will tell you, I bullied a girl named Leah when I was in 6th grade, and here's how crazy it gets. We all rode the school bus together, and one of the things that the guys like to do was joke on each other. So that's what we did. We joked on one another. We told jokes. I got really good at burning people. I did that all the way through high school, even at the lunch tables. I would get in there and we'd start burning on each other. And it was great. There were some kids that didn't think it was that great because they couldn't burn. They just got burned. And girls don't do it at all, really. So I was unaware of that in 6th grade. And I would call this girl Bus because she was shaped like a bus. And I've heard from her later in life that I really hurt her. I really fucked her up. And I was like, dude, I had no idea I was doing that. Like, it meant nothing to me, but it meant everything to you. And I apologize. It was a heartfelt apology I gave her because I wasn't even aware I was bullying. And I think that's kind of the deal with the racism stuff is sometimes you're bullying and sometimes you just think you're being cool. And then sometimes you say a word and you don't realize the impact of it, like maybe this little kid with the racial slurs. And then sometimes you are using racism as a weapon, a spear, since you said tribal, to throw at another person to break their heart. And so intent is really powerful in this situation.
Well, I just love it how we just discounted another child's broken heart for whatever fucking reason. And I don't mean us. I just mean the world.
Yeah, I was about to say, I don't think
I'm not talking about us, but I'm saying the world is fighting to do that. And that's what but we do that. We do that regularly now. Whenever something comes at, like, like BC was saying, we just try to discount it and paint everything bad. Everybody's bad. Everybody's a racist, sexist, nationalist asshole. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't know how we've gotten to this. It's bleak. It's bleak at this point. Like, there's no recovery.
Yeah, I think this one was marred. I think we were trying to have a conversation about the broader topic, but it's got a lot of different factors in it, right? And the thing that mars the discussion about the child is the GoFundMe account, right? And the parents' social profiles and his parents' behavior. So that is what has crept into the discussion about the child. So
they might be feeders.
So that's where it's coming from, right? So the people who are discounting the child, it's more like, no, they're discounting the integrity of the whole thing. Like, there's not only is he having this, when you feel like someone's out just trying to, take people for money, then it's easy to look to the other things that they're doing and question that as well. Right. So the video standing on its own, just like Chris said, standing on its own, it is heartbreaking. But then when you insert this piece of, right, this kid isn't sick, he's been bullied. It's not like he needs money for his medical fees or whatever. Right. So $60,000 they're in, and they've got all this publicity going on for the kid.
Oh, wait, is it to fix his face?
Who knows? I won't even go there.
I don't think.
I've seen the video. I didn't think anything was actually wrong with the kid's face, but maybe. Maybe I didn't read it. To be honest, okay, I didn't read it. So, but that's what they're questioning. So now that you've got this is happening, they're profiting, and the question is they must have positioned or planned or done something with this video in order to get what they're getting on the other hand, right? So
even if it's a surgery, right?
Yeah, and that's what they're doing, right? So that's the question. So again, I do agree that they could be looked at separately. If that kid is legit, right, in what he's doing, then you should look at them separately. But because of the other half of the parents, it does beg the question: is this a real cry for help? Is this legitimate?
So this kid has a GoFundMe page. It's up to $57,000, and it was opened by a person living in New Jersey, by Joseph Lamb, and it says they came across this video on Facebook of Kim Jones and her son Keaton. So it wasn't started by that parent.
There we go.
And it says that it's meant to help in his future.
Yeah.
So I think there's one thing I have a problem with, number one, about us having this conversation is, number one,
Brian,
I feel like let me say what I'm going to say. I feel like if race wasn't at play here,
right,
we would not have talked about it. That's number one. Number two, I feel like we're making assumptions about their parents, like they're money hungry and attention seekers. And, based on what I just said, we've said repeatedly, both of you, all three of you, I think, have actually said that the GoFundMe was from the mother, and that's not the case, even though the money, who knows how the money's distributed, and three, I feel like we are just as guilty as the social media frenzy that we keep talking about, because I don't think that we're, even talking about this in this way, I think we're just as guilty.
Well, I would say the opposite.
I don't think we would even talk about it.
And I would say that I'd say two things, right? So one, it's not just about the race for me.
That's what I was going to jump in and tell Brian is that, keep in mind, Brian, you've said this many times before that the money is what changes everything. So go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, so that was the first part of it. And the other part is I don't think that we're just like everyone else because of the simple fact that we're questioning, right? This is an opportunity, just like we do with everything else, is an opportunity to question or ask questions of ourselves about how something like this affects us or what our perspective is on it. And it's good to get these, get the facts out. Like that's why I said what I said. Like, I didn't read the GoFundMe account. Yeah. I don't know what that is.
We said we didn't read it. Yeah.
Right.
So
then you shouldn't talk. To be honest, I don't think we should ever talk about things we don't know about.
Well, thank you for sharing the facts now that we know. And I would say that the money's going to find the way to the kid.
Hopefully.
Okay. Is that fair?
Well, I think
hopefully it does. Hopefully this guy from New Jersey doesn't swindle them. And that's even worse. So, I mean, it's just like, that's what I mean. So I just don't think there's any benefit in being dogmatic one way or the other. It's good to question it and then apply it to your own life. Like I asked Jason, what would you do if your kid was in a situation?
Right. And the other part is that it's commentary about the social commentary. The social commentary is that this kid is racist and his parents are racist and they're stealing money off this kid's back. That's what the conversation is. I read through this thread when Chris sent it. Like, that's what people are saying. Right. And that's what the conversation's about. Right. It's like, again, people aren't thinking about one, they're calling this kid racist. The question is, can you be racist at 10, 11, 12 years old? You know, is that even possible? So it may, from my perspective, that negates all this crap that people are saying about this kid. Now you go to the parents. They might be leaning in some certain direction, but to BC's point, they're not the ones who started the GoFundMe account in the first place. So you would hope that this is the type of stuff that would get out and squash all of this crap about this kid, because the danger in all of this social commentary that's happening right now is further bullying for the kid, right? All the hate talk that this kid's going to get because of the potentially false perception they have about him and that they have about the parents. So that $55K might go to some counseling for this kid based off of the social impact of this video actually going viral. As I'm saying, like, this isn't one track that you can discuss. You know, there's so many things wrapped up in it. And, you know, as a dad, as I think a good human being, I really do hope the best for this kid. That I do hope that, you know, he is able to align with some folks that do him some good, whether it's his parents going forward, or it's some celebrity, or it's, you know, a movement that happens, whatever it is. I really do hope that through the firestorm, this all works out for this kid.
And I wonder how long before we get a second video from a new kid.
Yeah.
Just like how we got repeated accusations, which, like I said,
probably not that long,
95% of them have been
as a racist if they can too.
You know,
well, I think you're focused on the race, but I think a big part of it is the money.
I'm desperately focused.
And I think the parents, the images and stuff they've written on the internet, which, you know, the internet is forever. Those things are pretty much out there. That's not guesswork.
What I'll say is that you know, I watched that video and I shared that with both of my sons this weekend, and I talked to them about bullying. And I don't know if either one of you three, if any of you three did the same, but I would all I can say is that in its own, if you put the video in a silo by itself, that raw emotion outside of all the extraneous circumstances, money, parents, all the shit that adults put into this situation here, that video is one of the most powerful things that I've seen in quite a while. Mm-hmm. And I used it in that way. Yeah. I shared it with my children, and I talked to them about bullying and shared with them that I had been bullied, and, you know, and hoping that, you know, if they, you know, ever feel this way, that they can talk to me and share those things with me. And if they're felt like they've ever met somebody feel that way, then they need to, you know, apologize to that person. So I'm not trying to, you know, I'm not trying to say that, you know, that the kid's racist. I'm not trying to say that his parents are, you know, money hungry. All I'm saying is that video is powerful, and it's probably for someone that was bullied, that it is the perfect piece of media that I can use to talk to my children, or have that subject of bullying brought to the forefront. It puts a face and a feeling to the faceless.
That's right.
And that's what's powerful about it.
What I would say to that is basically to push back on all the folks who have taken all of the pieces, right, and put their own opinions in and shifted this discussion to something else. I would say that there is a huge invitation to you, Brian. And if Jason, you're feeling the same, and Chris, if you're feeling the same, I think I might likely feel the same. I need to watch this thing as well. But basically, it comes down to the invitation is share that sentiment on social media, right? Like make that the conversation, because that's where the conversation should be, right? So that is, I think it's huge. I think if you feel that strongly about it, share it out there, man. So other people, when they start talking about, oh, well, he was racist. No, screw you. You know, this kid was hurting, right? And he's a kid. So do like I did. Share it with your family. Share it with your kids. Don't talk about the racist crap. Don't talk about, again, the extraneous stuff that people are throwing in there. But use this as a teaching moment for your children, because it's potentially invaluable, especially if it does speak the way that you say it speaks, Brian.
It's a powerful video.
It does.
It's a powerful video on its own.
It is powerful. And for me, I think you're absolutely right. What caught me, and I think this, it's not just the race part caught me. What caught me was the differences between us as individuals. We use those for excuses in all ways. And usually we use those for excuses to hurt each other. And I think a lot of my previous comments were based on that. Like, so if I find an 11-year-old who's crying, like literally crying, hurt all the way through.
Oh, but he's racist.
But he's made some racial slurs. Well, fuck him. I guess he had it coming. God, no. What? No. I don't, you know what? I don't care if he, those things that we're still people. Like we have to get over the other people's flaws. We can't just see them as losers who need, because that's how this is the perpetuation of all of this. Like we keep failing because we measure the negatives of another person. And we say, you know, I have a higher expectation for you. So if you don't meet it, fuck you. You got to go.
Right. And the bully could be hurting too. The bully goes home and maybe gets beat by his parents. And so he comes home, comes to school and he bullies the kid. And are you going to let him weep on your shoulder too? I hope so.
But beyond that, what I'm saying is, yes, that's true. But what I'm saying is we can't say, oh, well, you have, it's like if somebody has something that we need to feel for them for, if there's any infraction in their history, if there's anything that they've ever done wrong, especially now that we're seeing this,
I see what you mean.
It play out in society. If before that they've hurt a person before that mark, oh well, look what he did before.
Right. This inability to let people grow and be different.
Right. Like or for vengeance with our lust for vengeance and this fucking reckoning and justice that never ever comes to fruition. It just keeps this cyclical cycle of this. Well, that's redundant. But this,
we're with you. We're riding with you though.
But this cycle of payback and negativity and never moving forward. We're just circling around the drain, really, until we go down because we're just looking for another reason why that person can't be forgiven and why they need to suffer. And they're going to look back at us in the same fucking way.
I wonder, like this case is so much like those questions you get like when you're a kid or maybe even in a consulting interview where it's like, is it wrong to rob a bank? And your obvious answer is yes. And then was it wrong to rob the bank if your family was starving and it was your best chance to get money? And then suddenly your answer changes, right? Was the video awesome and emotional? Yes. Okay, now what if the kid used racial slurs and his parents took pictures on Facebook behind Confederate flags and wrote racial epithets on the internet and someone opened a GoFundMe to send them $60K? Now is it okay? Like that's what it feels like.
Sure.
And I'm with Brian. I mean, it's good to just, in this case, it's really good to take the good out of it, which is the power of that video, and just throw the rest away as shit adults do. And say,
yeah, no, hey, look, I'm totally with you, and I think Brian is absolutely right on the emotion and the example of this video, and I just, I hate it that it's getting discounted because maybe maybe the kid had some flaws, which we're going to be taught flaws. That's where it gets really, really painful for me. It's like, Jesus, they're not even like maybe flaws that are probably his. Mm-hmm. They're just environmental flaws, like an 11-year-old that might spout some shit that he heard. He still has emotion. He's still there, but to speak to that, the tribalism stuff that we were talking about, look, it's totally real and it totally exists, but yeah, like that's weird for me. Like when you asked me that question, what do you, if your son was using, racial slurs, how, like that just seems so realistic to me because, once again, like his friends at school are not the kids that look like him. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Right. They just never have been. So like that seems it's so surreal. And I know that I don't have to deal with it and I have to fight it. So I need to be sensitive to it. But I just hate when somebody's automatically attacked for, oh, well, they've done this in their past. We should probably not feel for them at all.
Right. No, I agree with you. And my son's the same way. He grew up looking, I would say, more like his mother than me in terms of skin tone, at least, and has all black friends and has been bullied, but has never said those words to even the score with the bully. So yeah, it's a complicated case and one we should revisit.
I really think the hardest part for me, and I know we didn't get into this for that reason, but is that we all have these ideas of who we should and shouldn't be when we're dealing with our fellow person. Whether it's this kid or some random person that you meet or an elected official, but that if you have or anybody in Hollywood right now, that if you have anything in the past that's an infraction on somebody's feelings or free will, that you're culpable for the rest of your life, or just that just in every day that we have these expectations. And if you don't meet them, you're not a good person. So you can either be marginalized, forgotten, or punished. And it's not how the shit works. I don't know how this many millennia have passed in mankind that we're here. It's really fucking confusing. Whether it's in how we deal with each other on a social media scale. Maybe I do. It's overbreeding, and Joe Rogan was right. The dumb people have outfucked the smart people. That was genius. That's how we got here. But this we have to pay attention to this because it's we're talking about this when it comes to the kid in society, like a broad thing, and it is, and we really need to pay attention to that. We should come back to this in society, but that expectation we have is for your fellow person, but it affects you and your home so very much, that I think a lot of times it is the number one unknown killer of the relationship. Is your expectation on the other person and your demand for them to meet it.
And you have this concept of getting back to zero, right? Mm-hmm. And this thought of, now when I hear that, I hear, okay, we're getting back to zero. What is that all about? But you mean it in the opposite way. It's actually not something you want to achieve, is it?
No, it's a flawed philosophy. It's natural, I think, but it's flawed. It needs to be transcended. So the idea, getting back to zero, is what we all have. It's not something you should strive for, ever, because it's not like making things even in the relationship. That's not at all what I mean. What I mean is if you mentally throw up a number line there. You've got zero dead center, and and then you got up or down to the left or right. You're going in the red, you're going in the black. We set as humans, we come up with these ideas of who our spouses should be, or who other people should be, just in general. Whomever we deal with, we put them when they do everything that we expect them to do. If we define that in our minds as this is what I need you to do for me to be happy and okay with you, it's essentially at a zero. And even if it's not at the start, it will get to a zero. Even if before it made you a zero, because it's an expectation, it'll go whoop, 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 down the line, back down to zero.
So why will it go to zero?
And because that's our natural state. Once you expect something, you'll tend to forget about
so you're saying the
greatness.
Value, right? The value goes to zero because you have an expectation of that value.
That's right. Essentially, giving that action a value rating and putting it as, well, this has to happen or I can't be satisfied. It's the only way I can be satisfied. Giving that, that quality will eventually bring it to something that your mind doesn't at least flag as extraordinary. It'll just be ordinary, and ordinary passes by. You don't notice.
Okay, so what are baseline expectations you think in a relationship or in a marriage? Is, if you guys have kids, is caring for the kids a baseline expectation, or is that something that should be seen and recognized as?
Or real quick, and with
extra?
That question, Jason, do you believe that there should be no expectations and all things should be considered extraordinary?
No, I don't. I'm not. I don't want to say. I don't want to be so broad and say, well, all things should seem extraordinary, because, Chris was just getting to a baseline thing there and saying, taking care of the kids, is that extraordinary? No, that's not extraordinary, and it doesn't need to be done
sure
as such. But
what if you folded clothes for 3 hours?
Don't trip me up like that. Look, if you fold clothes for 3 hours, I don't know what the hell happened the week before that gave you 42 loads of laundry, but I can get through a good 6 loads.
6 loads in an hour?
I don't know. You can't fold 6 loads of clothes in an hour.
Dude, little people clothes too.
No,
come on. You were doing it for 3 hours. Don't do that to me.
Legit. Those little
try to do that to my brain.
Hard to fold.
It will not accept it. This is like Nick in emotion. Will not compute. No.
Well,
I appreciate the exaggeration.
It's all different expectations regarding folding.
No,
that's right. That's right.
Yep.
Yes, I was actually trained on how to fold, because apparently I didn't fold correctly. And,
you mean you've been retrained? I understand.
I was retrained. Yeah. No, I did. I spent 3 hours folding because it was.
Were you watching football at the same time?
A little bit of that.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, actually, hockey. I was watching
You
hockey.
wanted to do it right. Exactly. Take your time, man. Get it right.
Yeah.
Well, I masturbate at my own pace. It doesn't mean I couldn't finish earlier.
Right.
But you didn't.
Right. I mean, does it frustrate you guys when someone asks you to do something and then they tell you how to do it? Does that drive you crazy? Because
and that's everything.
My dad taught me that. It drives me nuts when somebody doesn't want to do a thing and asks me to do it and then tells me when to be finished with it, when to start it, and how to do it. It's pretty tough on me. It's like that's one of the toughest things to swallow my pride on.
My dad did the same thing. It's a tough one.
Yeah, that's that kind of sums up everything on the honey-do list for me. Is here? This needs to be done, and here's how to do it. And a lot of times there's a lot of angst and pushback for me because it's like, that's not gonna do it. I'm
taking a stand.
taking a stand. And that's probably why there was, as many clothes piled up as possible,
Okay. So Jason, washing dishes, baseline, or is that an exceptional
baseline for
expectation?
whom? Is it one person or the other? Is it both? How does that work out for you?
No, I mean for the guy. I mean for us. Just for us guys. Is that something that we should walk in and say, as a husband and a dad, so we're married with kids, I should be doing the dishes every day?
Is that a code?
You said a what?
Doing dishes code.
Well, there's that Harvard study that says that guys that do dishes get less sex. And then my wife vehemently disagrees with that. She says, no, doing dishes gets you sex. I was like, not according to Harvard.
Yeah. You know what? I'm betting to say your wife is wrong. I'm betting, yeah.
Exactly.
There's a 2-hour argument.
Yeah.
So
the one who's giving the sex
is probably correct.
The one who controls the sex in Chris's house is wrong about.
I think. Yep. Yeah, she is.
I don't think she's negating the study on the whole. You like that? I think that she is talking about what happened.
Oh, I didn't. Sorry, it took me a second.
Very, very quick.
I missed the whole.
Right.
Part.
I think.
No W.
I think she's talking about what happens in her household. That's what she's talking about. Harvard?
No, she doesn't get to decide that. He does. No, Chris does. Doesn't give a fucking what your spouse does. It doesn't matter what their opinion is. It's like, oh, well, hey, what's your opinion on how great you are? Doesn't matter. Everybody thinks they're great. You know what I mean? Unless you're depressed. But I mean, like that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you think that you're delivering enough pussy. Once you ask, why don't you ask the pussy E?
That's the thing.
They're getting enough.
The hyphen.
Yeah, sure it is.
I just coined another word.
The
pussy E.
I think there's definitely a hyphen in that. That's a real bastardization of the language.
Okay,
so
but is it baseline? I mean, is that something you want to be appreciated for?
I think that there should be a baseline for if you see. I can speak on my relationship with my wife. There's a baseline that if you see it, it needs to be done, and you have the time, you should do it.
Okay, that's baseline.
Right? Like if it's the dishes, if it's clothes, if it's the toilets need to be scrubbed. It's no one's job to do it. You're not getting paid with favors, if you will. Mm-hmm. It's the greater good. You should do it. It's
everybody's job.
It's everybody's job. And now, I do find it frustrating. Usually I come home from work and, for the first hour that I'm home, I'm usually doing stuff, right? I'm usually like helping out, seeing things that need to be done. I'm still in the mode to do them. I'm going to do them. I think that if I came home and just fixed a bourbon and sat down and smoked a pipe, first she'd be like, "What the fuck are you smoking a pipe?" But number two,
cancer. Stop
mine
that.
a Norman Rockwell painting. What the fuck is going on?
Exactly. But no, I think that there would be like a side eye, like this motherfucker.
Probably. You probably get laid more. That's the Harvard study right there.
Man.
That's the Harvard study. Yep, that dude never had a shortage of pussy.
Never lifted a dish, did he?
Mm-mm.
Well, he might have had some dishes after his dinner parties. He might have.
Maybe. Yeah. It's hard to see.
Yeah, Draper was cool about that kind of stuff. But
Roger never looked at a dish.
No, Roger never looked at a dish, and he was also drowning in the sex,
vodka and divorce.
Yeah,
yes.
and
drowning or dripping.
But like I said, he wasn't happy. He was divorced. So I don't think we want to be divorced. Baseline. So I think we have to kind of, if your wife is working with the kids or cleaning the house, you will get the salty side eye if you're going to sit down and have your drink and relax and kick your feet up while everyone else is busy.
But there's a flip side to that. And that's where it gets dangerous.
Okay.
That's where it gets muddy. Is that, you know, I don't want to put this on myself, but I think it's easiest, so I'm gonna. If you have always known that existed, that I need to do my part, really do it, and I really want to be a good partner and good husband and good mate. Like if that's not everybody's focus. You know what I mean? That's not everybody's first thought. Is whatever I do here, I want to make that other person happy. So it is really easy to create an environment for yourself of expectations instead of praise. And you will find yourself regularly, habitually doing things to take care of the other person to a level that you will inadvertently make them expectations for the other person because they're so used to them.
Mm-hmm.
And on all of a sudden, you find yourself doing a lot of things that when you measure them out against other people you know, which it's not fair, but still it's what we do. And you'll say, I don't understand. In comparison, I'm a super mate, but I am treated as an average mate. It's because, and I don't have a suggestion, maybe you guys do, of how to defeat this, but it's because you've established these things that you do as the norm. They're taken that way.
Right. Almost like if your
And
baseline was supposed to be really shitty, then that would actually be great because then.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, it's like in dating, like the guys that not just in dating, but like I remember this when I was in high school, like the guys that did the best with women. And when I say the best, I don't mean that positively towards women, but that did the best treated women the poorest. But every once in a while, they'd do something nice and they were like a Jesus Christ crucifixion.
Right.
You know,
he's turning things around.
Like, right. Like, no, he was telling good stories before that and teaching you examples. You were just impressed because he got crucified. So, that can't be notable. Look at all the bad shit he did. But it seemed to work. Hence the discussion from Harvard on the study on guys that do the dishes. Like, I believe it. Guys that do the dishes get laid less because that's their expectation.
Hey, how about this?
They
Maybe
take
it's
care
guys
of
that
things.
do the dishes get laid less because they're the married ones.
Touche. That's pretty,
right.
pretty good. Pretty good. Yep.
Yeah.
That could be something because so all this. Let's end on this question because all of what you said made me think of this, and this may be one way, one tactic, if you will, to ensure that this never happens. This getting to zero never happens. What is the one thing that would create chaos or frustration in your relationship if you stopped doing it? Nick, what do you think? Name one thing you do all the time that if you stop doing it.
Yeah. Getting that paycheck.
No, but that's a big deal. I'm being honestly, like you really can't stop going to work.
I can't. No.
Why not?
What it comes down to is it's the paycheck, right? It's going to cause disruption because the money's not going to come in to pay for the things it needs to pay for.
No, but they trust you as the leader of the household to have a plan. So if your plan is to stop working.
Well, we didn't get into all that. We didn't say planned absence. If I were to stop work, major disruption.
Right. It's implied in your response. Even as funny as your response is, you said if you stop going to work, then that would be frustration in your relationship. No, if you stop going to work, you're the type of person who doesn't do things by accident.
That's it. So. But correct. I don't do things by accident. So if I were to just stop without having a discussion, without having a plan, because I didn't say any of all that stuff. If I were to just stop,
well, if you if I were to just stop
by my choice solely, let's qualify this if we need to, then that would be the biggest thing. Apparently I need to, but outside of, I'm going to give you another one, but outside of that one, the
Well, you gave yourself an out. To be fair, Nick, you gave yourself an out. Oh,
we didn't plan it. That was my point. Well, this wasn't a discussion with my wife. We didn't plan it.
Okay.
If I were to stop work.
But the way you put it, let's say you planned it.
Oh,
now what's the answer?
No, same deal.
Or now what's the problem?
Same deal.
You planned it, but you didn't plan it with her.
So I was going to piggyback off of that and say that the expectation that my wife and I have is, I think it gets back to, I think Brian was talking about this when it comes to like the chores and things like that, is that there's a partnership. Right. So if I somehow sever the partnership, like that's the game changer. So like the dishes or whatever, like if I were to stop being a partner, that's the big deal. That's the breaker. So if it's the job, like me stopping working, stop getting that paycheck, then I broke the partnership. We didn't do that together. If I stopped doing dishes and cleaning, doing laundry and hanging out with the kid, doing the things that I'm supposed to do as a partner, game changer in the relationship. So that's my answer, is that if I stop being a partner in this.
But if you had to pick one, it would be work, because you could still come home, do the dishes.
Yeah.
You can actually do more dishes because you wouldn't be working. You can hang with the kids longer. You could be a great dad. It could be a 2X dad than you used to be, but the work would be the
work qualified the way we did. If I did it out of a partnership, it's not a discussion, not a plan. We hadn't, have a game plan for doing whatever. No, if I just stop working on my own, my volition, my decision, game changer.
Out of curiosity, if you had the conversation with your wife, how much pushback do you think you would get?
Oh, I think it just depends on it's like the risk, right? Risk reward. So if she has confidence, because it's a discussion, it's not, my wife trusts me, but she's not gullible, naive, or an idiot, right? So she's not just going to say, well, whatever you say, I trust that, right? So she wants to hear, well, how are we mitigating the risk of you not working? Like that, again, that's the partnership. We should have this discussion. We should talk about the risks. We should talk about how long this is going to be, things like that. So it would be a discussion, and we'd come to a joint conclusion on it.
Brian, I want to hear what your one thing would be, but in advance of that, my thought is piggybacking off what Nick just said. Would that be frustrating for you to not just be able to have the freedom to come home and say, you know what, I'm done. I'm done with that place. I'm not going back. And
it's so far out of who I am. I mean, I spoke with her one time about being let go from a job, and I didn't come home until I had another job.
Right.
And I am struggling to think of anything else, because that is so much of what I am. I am so much and I'm a little bit different from the rest of you guys, where I'm the breadwinner. I'm the sole source of income. So if I just quit my job tomorrow, everything changes. Schools, home, cars, lifestyle, everything goes away.
You're highly leveraged, right?
I'm highly leveraged. So it's I would say that my stability at the workplace is as an income, as a breadwinner, is the bedrock of the entire relationship. Wow. So if I just said I'm done, right? If I said I'm done, everything is changed. Everything is done. Yeah. To be honest, that's how it feels to me. Yeah. And if you add, if I didn't do the dishes a couple of times, I can get away with it, because he gets paid on the 15th at the end of the month. So
you start your job, it becomes Escape New York. It's like chaos in your home. All right, so I can totally feel where you're coming from, just knowing you as long as I've known you. Jason, bring us home on this. What's the one thing, if you stop doing it, would cause frustration or chaos in your relationship?
The job thing, I think, is there for most people, man or woman, maybe more heavily in the male. Like, it would definitely, that would rock the boat. But I don't think that would be it. I think for me it would be if I adjusted who I was as a father, because I think that's where my
adjusted in what way? Can you be more specific?
As a if I just stopped being a less involved father.
Gotcha.
or less concerned with her.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm terribly concerned and interactive in that way, whether it's raising the children or just trying to be attentive to her. Like that's where it would really affect me.
Is there one thing specifically that you do as a dad or as a husband that if you stop doing it, that would be like, whoa, I really expect that?
Let me step in there for you, Jay. Maybe listening.
Yeah. If I maybe that is it. Maybe if I stop listening, and just started saying, I got the answers. I'm going to go with it.
Yeah.
And shut that down. Yeah, that might be the killer. Which, you know, but talking about that, it makes me think of a soon to be a future series topic. Because I think I was thinking about the job, and I was, you know, would that kill it? No, you know, and for me, no, but it would create some strife. But oddly enough, I think that if I did that and left my job and focused on something that would be dangerous, in a normative sense, as far
maybe
as
something risky.
Yeah, something a little more risky, something without that guaranteed and
Guaranteed money.
I think that would be met with resistance, and I think it would totally pay off for me, because maybe I would take a moment to remember who she fell in love with, and that's not maybe who I am. So, kind of dog-legged us there, but it's funny.
I think it's right on point.
That came naturally, because like, what could I do that could fuck all this up?
That's the spirit of the question, right there.
That is the spirit of the question.
Because the answer is the answer to the expectation problem.
Right. Because it's also, and what you have to ask yourself, even if everything is going great, you still need to, from time to time, ask yourself. So the question was, what could I do to fuck all this up? You also have to say, what have I done that's fucking all this up?
Right.
You know what I mean? Because even if things are good, something's fucking it up. You know, like that's the natural course of things. The equal and opposite, like the yin and the yang. Yeah. You're doing something, and I think when we all find that eventually, at least maybe not everybody's there, but as married men, like what am I doing that isn't who I was? It isn't. How am I losing my wife's appreciation? How am I losing her eye? How am I staying at zero? How the fuck am I staying at zero? I'm doing all of these things. Maybe the answer is less on her appreciation levels as to what you've become, who you are and who you are not anymore.
Right. No, exactly. Because it's this idea of if Nick wanted to be appreciated more for his work, then he needs to stop working. And then when he works again, he'll be deeply appreciated. And luckily, I don't think he has that problem. But if he did, then now he knows the answer. And the same with Brian. And now the same with you. And for me, if you wanted to know, it was more on the lines of the kid thing. If I decided I wasn't going to help with the kids, carting them from place to place, taking children to school in the morning, picking them up in the afternoon, that would probably be the end of our marriage, I think. So that would fundamentally be the end. So that's good. And these, look, the one thing I've learned in my marriage, in your sense, Jason, in terms of losing a little bit of who you are, which I have experienced, is the longer you wait to have a difficult conversation, the more difficult the conversation gets. And my desire to not be in conflict, or maybe you might say my cowardice, if you will, when it comes to my own wants and desires, created a situation for me that almost came to a head at some point where it was like, now the conversation's really hard to have and I'm way down the line and I should have said this a long time ago. So for anyone out there that's listening that's about to get married and wants to maintain that person who they are, have the conversation right now. Don't wait. Even if it's hard now, it'll be 30 times harder in 10 years.
Never stop talking.
Yep. This is good, gents. And is next week our last show of the year?
Oh, shit. I think it might be.
We jump back in January after that, right? Is that right, Brian?
Yeah.
Let's see. 11, 17. Yeah, just about.
All right. So great. So next week, let's just get geared up for our awesome finale of 2017. It's been a hell of a year, gents. So I'm excited.
My favorite meme that I've seen in quite a while, and it's terrible what's going on in California with the fires and everything. But it's that video that we've seen with the person going towards
the driver,
going towards the flames.
Like it's apocalyptic.
And then there's the off ramp right there, and it says 2017.
Let's get off on that exit.
That's pretty
Let's
accurate.
get off on that exit right away. I'm with you. So, gents, good chat, and everyone out there, you have been listening to the MND podcast. To find show notes, read excellent blog posts, find links to all of the products or services suggested during the show, please visit our blog at mndpodcast.com. If you haven't already, you can join our podcast community on the Apple Podcast app, on YouTube, on Stitcher, on SoundCloud, or the podcast app of your choice. We're all over the place. So after you subscribe, just remember to rate and review. Please give us 5 stars. If you don't think we deserve 5 stars, please let us know. You can go to our blog. You can find us on the internet, social media, and let us know how we can improve. On Twitter and Instagram, we are at _married-not-dead. And on Facebook, you can find us by searching for the Married Not Dead podcast page. So until next time, on behalf of Nicholas Buggs,
that's me,
Brian Comer, Jason McConnell,
CC.
I'm Chris Barkley. See you next week. All right, boys.
Good night, boys.
All right, gents. Be good.